think this is one of the really wonderful parts about documenting not just my writing journey, but I think my journey as a person over the last year. Peter is like really putting his back into showing Laurel that he cares about her and being very vulnerable. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Becca. I'm a writer. I'm currently working on my debut literary fiction novel, which is tentatively titled Project Eden. It is what I have been softly pitching as a 90s East Coast autumn ghost story. And if you are not new, hello. It is so good to see you again. We are so back, baby, because this is a writing vlog. I feel like I haven't done a writing vlog in like a month or so. My bad. I have been incorporating writing into like my last few videos, but it hasn't really been the focus. You need motivation. I need to get my butt in gear. I feel like this just works out for all of us. So it's Sunday. It's about 10 past 8. I just got showered. I got ready. I'm actually gonna go get breakfast and then camp out at the coffee shop. Edwin and I do have plans today to go see our cousin. That's not till like the afternoon. But for now, I want to just share a little bit about where I'm at in the draft. For those of you that don't know, I finished draft 1 of this story back in January, and I finished about a 50,000 word zero draft. I am currently 50,000 words in the new draft, and I have just passed the midpoint. So this story is shaping up to be a little bit bigger than I anticipated, and not in a bad way. I think the idea of doubling the word count and possibly having a 100,000 word manuscript for draft 2, it does intimidate me because that's a lot of words to go through. I'm not trying to make it longer for the sake of making it longer. But a lot of what happened in draft 1 was that I was kind of like discovery writing. I was pretty happy with what I had discovered while I wrote, right? But the story really didn't have any structure. So I spent a lot of time in between draft 1 and draft 2 figuring out my outline. This is where I used Save the Cat. This is where I did both a chapter by chapter outline as well as a beat sheet for every Save the Cat beat. And I keep both of those things in my Scrivener document so that I can reference them while I'm working. That has helped me tremendously to not only make really great progress on Eden, but also just kind of stay focused on the story. I do leave myself enough wiggle room to play around like when things happen and what character dynamics I want to explore when, and I am learning a lot. I'm kind of taking notes for myself for the next round of revision as I'm drafting. So I have about a page already of things that I need to fix. But for the most part, I am trying to focus on the win that this version of the story is leaps and bounds better than the first version of the story, which didn't even have any structure. This draft is actually starting to read like a book. There's actual character dynamics, there's conflict, time is running out, and our characters kind of need to figure things out. And I'm about to write like one of the bigger, well, probably the big confrontation between my two main characters. So I feel like we are picking up steam. If you were watching any of my last videos, you know that the routines that I've been building and implementing in my life, and actually, honestly, writing in the mornings again has been so helpful for me to make significant progress. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my daily writing goals and my goals for April specifically in a little bit, probably in the voiceover in the next section. For today, I need to go to the cafe to get my words in. I just feel super productive when I go there. I no longer feel like writing at home if I can help it, which is so not good for my wallet because I've recently discovered lavender oat milk matchas. And the ones at this coffee shop are so good, so good. To the point where I bought matcha and tried to make some at home, and they are not the same. I need to practice my matcha making skills. So if you guys have like any advice, matcha recommendations, anything like that, leave it in the comments below because I need them. I need them bad. I also wanted to share with you guys my new bag, because when do I not have a new bag? But this is my new writing bag. This is the Baggu medium nylon backpack. And the reason I got this backpack is because my blue one was so bulky, and I got so tired of looking like a Ninja Turtle every time I went to the office or went to go write. So I bought this one. It's a little bit slimmer. It fits everything I need to. I can fit like 2 laptops in here, cosmetics case, my lunch, keys, wallet, 2 extra Baggu bags, sunglasses. I live and die by Baggu. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off the first writing session of this vlog. Alright guys, now that we're settling in for the first session, I just want to talk really quickly about my April writing goals. So I have set a goal of 30,000 words for myself for April. By the time I'm recording this voiceover, I am about 19,000 words into that 30,000 word goal. And you'll see here in a minute, I've been using TrackBear to track all of my progress for Project Eden. I've joined both Brielle and Lynn's TrackBear leaderboards just to track both my time and word count, and it's been helping me so much. Seeing the number tick up towards my goal is actually like so motivating, and getting to enter my progress at the end of a session or the end of a day is honestly kind of motivating as well. But I had a great session here, kind of intense, kind of emotional, but I talk about that a little bit later on. Hi guys, it is much later. It is basically 2 o'clock already. Edwin and I just got home from the grocery store, but I wanted to do a really quick check-in after the writing session this morning. I had such a wonderful writing session. I got 1,340 words out of the 1,500 words that I wanted to get in for today, so super happy with that. I ended up writing for about an hour and a half at the coffee shop. I think the writing session itself was good, but it was intense. So I'm at the point in this story where I've just passed the midpoint. I'm kind of making good on some of these emotional themes and promises that I've not so successfully laid down in like the first half of the story. Because as I've mentioned before, with this version of the draft, I'm really just working on story structure. In my next round of revisions is where I'm going to really go in and refine a lot of like character arcs, dynamics, foreshadowing, pacing, things like that. So right now I'm trying really hard to execute on the emotional stuff as best as I can with where I'm at right now. So I ended up finishing up chapter 14, which is just shy of about 4,000 words. And it's a chapter where Peter and John, who's his dad, are having their kind of come to Jesus moment. When I think about the men in the story that I'm writing, I like to take a page out of Tolkien's book, and you might be thinking, what the heck does fantasy have to do with this story? Fun fact, Laurel is obsessed with Lord of the Rings, and because I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. But when I think about how I want to portray male relationships, be they male friendships, familial relationships, romantic, specifically in this instance, it's familial, it's father-son. I think there's something so beautiful about when men can be vulnerable with each other, and especially after they've spent so long being very distant and cold with each other. I think there's something really beautiful in that vulnerability, and considering that this was a moment where Peter had finally decided that he was going to bridge the gap between him and his dad, I just got really emotional writing it. There's also some really heavy themes. This family struggles with some really difficult stuff, specifically the men in this family, specifically their mental health. I think I did as good as I could do tackling some of the emotional stuff in this chapter, and I think it will just get better with time. So writing sessions like the one I had today make me that much more excited to jump into revisions and continue revising, and give me a little bit of fire when it comes to like championing this story to the end. So I had a really great session, and that was really encouraging, and I just feel like the story is definitely moving more in the direction that I had always imagined it, and so that feels like a huge payoff as a writer. After the writing session, as you guys have heard me complain or say in some of my other videos, I have just been really just fiending for spring. I've been so excited and just so eager, and yesterday was so bright and sunny. Today it's like overcast, but while Edwin and I were driving around yesterday, I noticed that some of the trees in the park were starting to bloom, and I was like, man, I really want to take some new pictures because I barely ever take pictures of myself, and I was like, oh, I'd love to take some like in the park with the flowers. So I took my camera, I took my phone, and I tried to get some pictures of myself, and I was kind of satisfied with what I had gotten. But as I was getting ready to wrap up, this woman comes out of her car with a camera, and we are both like around the same tree, like admiring, taking photos. And I'm like, oh, it looks like we had the same idea. And so we start talking. I tell her about my channel because she asks like, oh, are you a photographer too? Like, I see you have a camera. And I was like, no, I'm a vlogger. And I told her about my book, and she was just asking all these questions. And it was kind of fun because I'm trying to get a lot more comfortable talking about what I do and like these hobbies that I have. And so she was like, well, do you want me to take some pictures for you? Like, I just wrapped up a session. And so she was nice enough to take these like really beautiful professional photos. I don't know if I'm going to have them by the time this video goes live, but if I do, I will definitely like include them. But it was just so nice, and like I feel like I hardly ever get to meet people organically like that anymore, and she was just so lovely. She did think I was a college student, which was both great for my ego and also made me reevaluate some of my like fashion choices. Maybe, I have no idea. It could be that I was carrying a backpack, so I don't know. That is the check-in. I will probably check in with you guys tomorrow because I don't want to worry about vlogging while I'm with my family. And even though I didn't hit 1500 for today, I think I'm just gonna call it a day. I ended chapter 14 in a really good spot, and I'm not worried about making up those words tomorrow. Great day, great session, so happy. I feel like these like writing wins are like what keep me going. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hi guys, it is much later. It's already lunchtime. It's just a little bit past 12. I did not wake up super early to write today. Since I started a new chapter, I started chapter 15. I spent basically like the first 15-20 minutes outlining my chapter 14, which you might be like, Becca, I thought you already outlined your chapters. I did. Sometimes what I like to do as like a writing warm-up is I will work off the outline that I made, but then also go in and add like specific details that I forgot to do when I was writing the outline the first time. It's a really nice technique that I started doing to help me get into the flow of writing before just like straight up jumping into drafting. It just kind of gets me in the mind of the world. For this morning's writing session, I did a 30-minute session. I got 579 words out of the 1500 that I need to get in today. Still need to do some writing, but that's fine. I think for a 30-minute session, that was actually like a pretty good sprint, so I'm not worried. I'm gonna do a writing session after work. Maybe I'll even do a 30-minute session depending on how long it takes to film this clip. Okay, so the other reason I wanted to film this little section was because I haven't done a Q&A on this channel since the summer of last year when I hit 1.5 thousand subscribers, and we are already at like 3.5. So I thought it would be a great little just like pulse check and way to chat with you guys, especially for those of you that are new to the channel. And you guys did not disappoint. There are so many really good questions. I did ask over on my Instagram for some questions, and then also on my community tab here on YouTube. So I'm actually going to go through the community tab questions first, and then I will go through the Instagram questions probably in a different section of this video. But let's go ahead and jump into these questions because you guys asked some really good ones. So Writing Mama asked, what's your filming setup like? Camera, microphone, microphone, etc. The quality of your videos is always so good. Also, are you planning on trad or self-publishing in the future? Great question. I am a content equipment junkie. I love knowing what kind of equipment other people use. Mine is always listed in the description of my videos. I use the Sony ZV-E10 with the kit lens. I use these DJI Mic Minis. For times when I don't want to bring my camera, I will just use my phone. It's the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And honestly, I started my channel kind of with my phones. The best camera is the one that you have. I do have my sights set on traditional publishing, and I'm gonna work really hard to get there. However, if this book can't find an agent, I am 100% open to the idea of exploring indie publishing. That's why I'm kind of putting away anything that I earn from YouTube or social media just on the side in case self-publishing is something that I do end up wanting to pursue at some point. I just very recently learned about hybrid authors, and I think that's so cool. So I'm working towards TradPub. That would be amazing, but at this point in my life, I just am really excited to pursue writing and publishing in whatever facet I can. Miscaptured Soul asks, hey Becca, I love your channel. When you're drafting, do you set goals for yourself or have weekly targets, or what system works best for you? It depends. So because I'm trying really, really hard to get this book ready to query by the end of the year, I do have specific deadlines. I've kind of noticed that around 3 months for drafting, because I am redrafting, obviously, the book, is a fast but doable pace for me. What I do is I know that I don't want to write on the days that I go into the office because it's just a lot mentally. I can't wake up early enough to do my writing sessions, and I'm just kind of drained by the time I get home. So I look at my month and I'm like, okay, don't want to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, so those days are off. How many days do I have for the month available that I can write? And so I compile that, and then I think about the words that I can realistically do in a month, which is usually 30,000. And then I divide those days by 30,000 to get me my word goal for the day. So that's kind of what I've been doing in April, and it's been working for me. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to keep up. Once I get to actually work more on like editing and revising specific scenes instead of redrafting entire chapters and entire sections of the book or the book in its entirety, I feel like 3 months is actually a lot more time to sit with editing. And so I'm really curious to see what that's going to look like. Hi from Spain. Could you tell us about your favorite places in your city? Maybe the ones that inspire you. I honestly really love Chicago. I don't live in downtown, but I am very close. I just think Chicago in the spring and summertime is one of the best cities ever. It's hot and sticky and muggy, but it's so fun and it's so vibrant, and love being by the water. So on the lake shore, we're at my old apartment. I would walk the 10 minutes from my old apartment to the lake, and there was this like jetty that everyone would sit on. There's like these giant steps, and people would run and walk their dogs and like have picnics. And I just remember spending a lot of time out there reading and journaling, and it just felt like my husband and I had just moved to Illinois. We were basically by ourselves, and it was just like such a routine, like ritual for me to go out there and just enjoy the sunshine and be close to the water and meditate after such a stressful time in my life, in both of our lives. So I feel like anytime I go to the city, I'm always so excited to be by the water. And also Millennium Park. I actually really love Millennium Park, and I'm really grateful that I work downtown and I can spend my lunch break there if I really want to, meet up with friends there. There's lots of really great places in Chicago, but in my town where I live right now, it's just so cute and walkable. There's a park right across the street, kind of across the street from my building, and I love going there, just like setting up my picnic blanket and writing. I just really like to be outside as much as possible. Anna Robbins asks, I love your content so much as always. I super relate to you as a corporate girly with a dream. Are there any skills or lessons from your corporate work life that you carry into your writing life, or vice versa? And more importantly, best drink to order at Starbucks? I think the number one thing that I have taken from writing and work that have really bled into each other is just my system of staying organized and the importance of keeping specific information in one place. I think I talked about it a little bit earlier in the video, where I now keep everything in my Scrivener document. I don't like having things scattered because when you're in the flow of writing and when you're in the flow of working, having to break that concentration to go find things is so frustrating. So I really do try to keep things as like organized and concise and like as easy to find as possible. My current go-to drink at Starbucks is that lavender oat milk matcha latte. I literally have dreams about not just that drink at Starbucks, but that drink, period. As you saw when I got it at the coffee shop yesterday. Maria asks, I've been struggling with keeping my job at work. What do you do to keep yourself grounded and not get sucked in by work? It's been consuming lately and I have zero creativity because of it. I think one thing that's really helped me is the fact that ever since starting working a 9 to 5 again, my desk has really just become a work desk. I can't really write there. I will do video editing there because I have this giant monitor, so it's like quite helpful to have when I'm editing a video or making thumbnails and stuff like that. When it comes to writing, I have found that I am infinitely more productive not at that desk because all I can think about is work when I'm sitting at that desk. Even if it's after hours, even if it's early in the morning, like I do think there is something to be said about assigning specific spaces for specific things. I don't know if you work from home or if you have to go into the office. If you do work from home, I really encourage you to find a different space in your home that you never do work at and that's comfortable to write. If you have to go into the office and you're battling that fatigue when you're getting home, one thing that really helped me is brain dumping. So when I had a lot of thoughts swirling around in my head about work or just like extra stuff, I would literally just write it all out. Even if it looks bad, it's chicken scratch. Like the important thing is just to like get it out of your head, at least for a little bit, long enough to get you in the headspace to do something creative. So I would recommend maybe taking like 5-10 minutes to get it all out of your head. And maybe you don't start writing right away. Maybe you do this practice for a week and hopefully it works. And now you can see, okay, like I know that once that's out of my head, I have the capacity to do all this creative work. And then you can kind of anticipate like, okay, I can get home, I can get this out of my head, I can work on the thing that I really want to do. I don't think instant change is possible, at least not consistently. So I would advise you to like be gentle with yourself while you transition into trying to make this something that you can do consistently. So Jasmine asked, if you could pick any country you can live in for a year, which one and why? Greece. And I think that has to do with the fact that I grew up around water and sunshine. I was born in Puerto Rico, which is an island in the Caribbean. I grew up in Florida, going to the beach constantly. After Florida, I moved to California with my husband and I was always in the sunshine or around water. So moving to Illinois was a little bit difficult for me to adjust to. I also love a Mediterranean diet. I love spanakopita, I love moussaka, I love big hearty salads and olives and feta, and like I just feel like I would fit in so well there. So I would definitely move to Greece for a year. Faith Writes asks, how do you envision your writing career? At this point in my life, I'm just happy I'm writing, period. Is the big dream to land an agent, get a book deal? Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I would love to be able to do that. And I would love to be able to maintain like uploading to YouTube and having social media as like this really great hobby and way to connect with people. I've said it before that like, I don't think I would ever leave my job unless I was making just like so much money writing books, because at the same time, like I studied really hard for my career and I do genuinely love and enjoy what I do. I think it would take a really like something's gotta give moment for me to choose writing 100% over at least traditional like trad pub writing over like my 9 to 5. I mean, I would love to be a full-time author at some point. I would love to be good enough and lucky enough and blessed enough to do that for work and also be able to continue doing YouTube. I think like my B dream would be, I think, still continue to do YouTube and social media and maybe explore like self-publishing and building an audience that would be excited and willing to read what I have to put out. I think that's also a really wonderful dream, and it would allow me to continue working 9 to 5. I think one of the big reasons why I wanted to pursue social media was not only to document my writing journey, but I think that there is so much opportunity in this field. And when I think about being a content creator, it's not that I want to be some sort of influencer or that I want to like make a ton of money. I just see all of the opportunities that people are afforded to go on trips with brands, not to like a tropical location, but to like go to a headquarters, like explore a product, or be able to like read new books by exciting authors. I just think that there's so many doors that it can open, and I would be remiss to not have tried to be a part of that and like bring those opportunities into my life and work for that. That's kind of how I envision my writing career going. I would always love to write, trad pub, and continue social media. So Write with Sab asks, how do you switch your mind into creative mode after a difficult and long day of your job? Tips and tricks. I think viewing writing as this thing that you get to do at the end of the day, viewing it as this like treat, as the thing that's getting you through the day, is also so helpful for pushing through when you feel tired but you want to write. I think mentality is so important when it comes to writing and like staying consistent and like having it be something that you can do sustainably. So I don't know, maybe examine the way that you're thinking about writing instead of being like, oh, I have to work on the book at the end of the day, I haven't touched it, blah, blah, blah. Be like, I get to work on my book at the end of the day. Once my work is done and nobody needs me, I can sit down and do this thing. Tanya asks, are there parts of your non-writing life you would never pants, or parts you would never plot, so to speak? I hope that makes sense. Looking forward to the video. I think I've become like a hardcore plotter in like all aspects of my life, if I'm being honest. Like the idea of not having a plan for my day, not planning out meals, not planning out my time. Mind you, I don't think that every second of every day needs to be planned, but like I do have very big goals for myself, both in writing and work and personal. And to achieve those things, I do have to be very organized and very thoughtful and very diligent. I am a plotter in all aspects of my life. Ooh, this is a good one. Jen asks, do you think you'll venture back into horror writing or stay in a cozy space? I don't know. I think horror has a special place in my heart as a consumer, as a reader, but I don't know if I could write a whole horror book all over again. Not because I don't like the genre, but just because it was very tough for me, and there are just so many other genres that I want to explore. The book that I'm considering writing after this is going to be like a duology, contemporary fantasy, very gritty, magical girl story. That's really exciting to me. I don't know where that fits in the market at all. There's also like this really cool Legend of Zelda / cyberpunk story that I'm thinking about. I just have so many different genres that I want to explore, so I'll never rule out horror completely, but I might dabble in some horror short stories. Donna Marie Kelly asks, you've been talking a lot about self-care lately. How has that been going? It has been going so well, and I think this is one of the really wonderful parts about documenting not just my writing journey, but I think my journey as a person over the last year. If you look at some of my older videos while I was struggling to find work, I talk a lot about my mental health, and I was not in a good spot this time last year at all. And I was going to therapy, I was on antidepressants, I was on anxiety medication, and I do believe that those did such wonderful things to help me learn how to, I think, get me to a place where I was strong enough to do a lot of the mental and physical work that it took to build a toolkit for myself to navigate really difficult situations and conversations without therapy and medication, because I'm currently not on any medication anymore and I'm no longer going to therapy. And I feel great. I feel like just yesterday, my husband and I were talking in the car, and I felt like we could have a conversation without me getting defensive or me feeling attacked or me feeling like I'm some sort of failure, because my sort of mentality around myself and I think my life and my life choices and just the way that I operated was very much so coming from a very, very negative space. And it was very hard to move on and have productive conversations and take care of myself when I was operating from such a space of negativity. And I'm not saying this because I'm just positive all of the time now. I'm saying this because the act of watching myself grow over the last year and documenting it and hearing myself talk and talking things out loud and putting things into fruition just by like verbally processing them, it's been so instrumental to, I think, the place of strength and peace and calm that I now operate from. I think that's why I was so excited to film like the last 3 videos that I did, where I went through these like morning routines and like self-care, because self-care is sometimes not just about doing things that bring you joy, but also about doing really difficult things and feeling the joy of growing as a person through those difficult things. Lastly, Joy asks, what is it about writing that excites you the most? What a great question. I've always said that I write from a space of wanting to understand and wanting to learn and wanting to grow. And that's the great thing about writing, is I just feel like I am continuously learning and growing through my characters, through the worlds that I build, through the situations and conflict that arise. I feel like that's just translated so much into my personal life as well, and it's made me grow in ways that I really never ever anticipated. I think there's something so exciting about being able to, every time I look at the fact that I'm like, my draft is 50,000 words, like I wrote 50,000 words of something, and by the time this specific draft is done, it'll be like the longest story I've ever written. It'll be the most thoughtful story that I've ever written, and the idea of having that and doing that over and over again for as long as I'm able and willing to is like crack to me. It's like so exciting. Whenever someone tells me like, I'm scared to get back into writing, I'm scared to start YouTube, like I want to put myself out there, I want to put my writing out there, I'm like, just do it. Just do it. It's so rewarding. It's tough and it's challenging, but I think I've learned to really relish in the difficulty of things, which is not something I ever used to do. But I think that's a sign of like real growth for me as a person, and that's something that I'm always trying to strive towards, is how can I grow better? How can I be better? How can I collaborate better? How can I look at this story in a different way to help me put it together better? And I don't know, I feel like the most exciting thing about writing has been the way that it has just taught me so much about myself and what I'm capable of. That was long. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll tackle the Instagram questions because there were significantly less of those in a different check-in. But for now, I need to go back to work. I actually need to fix myself some lunch. Let's get back to it. As you can tell from the fact that it's now Thursday, I actually didn't end up writing Monday night. Honestly, Tuesday and Wednesday left me so battered. I don't know what it was physically. I had kinked my neck really bad. I'm gonna be so honest. This is my age showing right now. And I was just in so much pain and so much discomfort. And I was like, you know what? I think this is a moment where I need to take a step back. I had been going balls to the wall with work, with writing, with YouTube for basically all of March and April, and I really just wanted to take a step back, relax, recoup. And so I didn't do any writing those 2 days, which I wasn't supposed to do anyway, but I was still feeling really bad about. So I'm glad I took the rest in the long run though. Hi guys, happy Friday. It's quite early, so please forgive the fact that I don't have any makeup on and my hair is a little crazy. It's day 3 hair, okay? It is just past 6:15. It is almost 6:20. I wanted to sit down and film an update with you guys because we're gonna do a writing session this morning. This past week has been very crazy and I have just been so exhausted. Like my body was literally shutting down on me this past week. I'm like really excited to sit down, jump back into the story in like a meaningful way and get back to making some progress on this book, because I feel like I had a really nice flow up until this week. I know that's what it's gonna be like for the next 3 weeks because I have to be in the office a lot more for the next 3 weeks, but that's fine. We persevere. I accounted for this. In this update, I want to touch a little bit about Eden as a project itself, as well as this fun little purchase that I made for myself that I want to share with you guys. I have been eyeing this for like a while and have been trying to figure out the best way to use it to justify the purchase, and I think I figured out how. So let's jump into the update. Let's talk about Eden for a second. I know that, I mean, I always start my videos with like that little blurb of, it's a 90s East Coast autumn ghost story. What does that mean? I very rarely actually give you guys the premise, and I think I'm gonna just start including it in the description box from now on. But essentially, if you're new here and you haven't heard much about the project, it essentially follows our male main character, Peter, as he returns home to Eden Grove, Connecticut to take care of his mother who has had an accident. When he's home, he discovers that his estranged childhood best friend is a ghost with no memory of who she is. In order to get the answer to the question that's been plaguing him his whole life of why she decided to end their friendship, he decides to help her regain her memories and remember who she is. And it's a journey of self-discovery for both of our characters. His best friend's name is Laurel, so if you hear me reference Laurel, that's who that is. And it's just a very cozy, small town. I love to think of it as like this little pocket in time story. There's a couple reasons why I chose the setting. There's a couple reasons why I chose the time period. I really loved the 90s because it was right at the end of this cusp of time where we weren't all so connected, and I feel like answers were not so easily available. There was a sense of freedom there that I think we did not really understand at that time. I was born in 94. The story takes place in 95, but I would even argue even into like the early aughts, before social media and, you know, phones as we know them today. So there's no cell phones in the story. There's barely computers. There's barely any sort of technology at all. And I really just wanted to write in that space. I think as someone that's just been inundated with tech and information and just like a barrage of bad news all the time, I wanted a little bit of a degree of separation from that when I was writing. And I think that it also added to the story as well. So I thought that it really suited the concept. In terms of like setting, I've just always loved Connecticut. I was watching a lot of Gilmore Girls when the idea for this story started like popping up into my head, and so that definitely influenced the setting and the kind of world that I envisioned building. Eden Grove is obviously fictional. It's a town completely of my own design, which has been kind of fun. I love playing with, you know, the real established world and then this sort of magical pocket town that is just like completely of my own design. So I've always had this story kind of ruminating in the back of my mind, and it's taken a lot of different shapes over the years, but I'm really happy with the way that it's shaping up right now. And I feel like I'm actually starting to do this story justice, which it's crazy because it's not until you start writing pretty consistently where that, you know, that advice of like writing is nothing but editing and rewriting is so true. I also have a whole Substack where I dove a little bit more in depth into the story, how it came about. It's always linked in the description box down below. So if you want to check that out and read more about it, you're more than welcome to. I encourage it. And then the really exciting purchase that I made was this little guy right here. So this is a Hobonichi Weeks. This is basically like a Japanese planner. It's very small. I made a mistake. I thought I got the Weeks Mega, which has more empty pages in the back. My bad, but this will still work. The reason I got this was for a few different reasons. I love stationery, but I also hate carrying too many things. So I had my physical planner, my notebook for Eden, I had also my personal journal, and it just got to be too much, right? So I'm just like, can I get one thing that does everything? So that is what I'm doing with this guy right here. And the thing that I adore is this spread right here. This is basically the monthly spread with like all of the days. And I'm going to fill this out with all of my words and writing progress. So I need to go in and fill out. It starts in April, and so I'm going to fill out like all of the days that I wrote. I'm going to write down how many words I wrote for each day and do that essentially for like the entire year. When I go from drafting to editing, I will probably write down the number of chapters I edited. I don't know. We'll get there when we get there. And then it obviously has the monthly spreads. It has the weekly spreads. So I'll probably write like all my big events for the week here. And then what I'm hoping to do is use the like grid side to do a lot more of like weekly journaling. So I think it'll just be a lot easier for me to journal if I'm already planning my week, and I can just fill it out at the end of the week, which I really want to do. I think journaling has been very, very helpful for me in the past. And then in the back of this bad boy, there's just a bunch of empty grid pages. So I'm going to just start taking all of my revision notes and notes for Eden in the back of this notebook. So that way I have one book with me the entire time, and it's small and compact and also really cute. It has sushi on it because I love sushi. Very excited about this little guy. Okay, and now that I've yapped for 8 minutes, I'm going to eat my breakfast and ease into this writing session, and I will update you guys when I'm done. Hi guys, so it's a little bit later. It is 12:50. I just had lunch. Edwin and I grabbed some food, and I wanted to check in with you after this morning's writing session. Basically dedicated about 2.5 hours, I would say, to writing. And instead of trying to work really quickly and get maybe like more than 1,500 words within those 2.5 hours, I really just took my time with it because it was the first time that I was sitting down to write for like a few days. I was like, you know what? I'm giving myself 2 hours to hit this goal. That's more than enough time. If you need to ease into it, ease into it. So I would take, I would say like 15, 20-minute breaks between my writing sprints, which I think kind of helped just like get me slowly back into the story. I'm writing chapter 15, I think, which is the point in which it's both the most romantic chapter of the entire book. So it's where Peter is like really putting his back into showing Laurel that he cares about her and being very vulnerable about things, but it's also kind of where shit starts to hit the fan. So I'm in the early stages of things going well, so I got to build up the chapter up until that point, and they're about to have this romantic moment, and it was just very like lovely. It's a scene that I've envisioned in my head probably since like the beginning of the story, like ever since I started thinking about it in the way that it exists today. It's so fun, like finally getting to write out all of the scenes that like you've been just picturing in your head for so long. So I have just been working. It's a work from home day, hence why I am just in a t-shirt and my hair is not done, but my makeup is done. I thought that now would be a really great time to also go through the questions that you guys sent over on my Instagram, because there's not that many and this vlog is getting really long and I wanted to make sure that I answer these. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Grace Cook 55 asks, number one tip for the first draft. This is coming from a plantser. I would say try to go in with a little bit of a plan. I don't think you need to have a chapter by chapter outline per se, but I think at least filling out your beats for whatever story structure that you're using for your book is going to be really helpful. I think that gives you enough wiggle room to play around with things when you're writing, but also understand what it is that you're writing towards. When you're writing the first draft, set like realistic goals for yourself. I am rewriting this book in 3 months. That's a really short amount of time for a lot of people. I am dedicating a lot of time and energy to be able to do that. Some people can't do that. So if all you can write is like 500 words here and there every few days, then that's okay. Like, it will be fine. I think the most important thing to remember when you're drafting and you're trying to finish that first draft is it's step number 1. It is a huge step to be able to accomplish, but just like give yourself a lot of grace as you're working your way there, because it's going to be a little rough. It does not need to be perfect. I will tell you this a million times. And I think as far as like, don't edit your first draft, like it'll just slow you down. Do what feels best to you. Like I would recommend that, like if something is really giving you a lot of trouble, maybe skip it and come back. I don't think that writing advice should be prescriptive. I don't think everything works for everyone, but it's a time to play around. Like treat it as fun, as seriously as you're taking writing and writing your first draft. Just make it fun for yourself. Kelly Goes the Distance asked, are you going to commission official character art? Really great question. I was actually watching one of Brielle's Patreon videos where she was going through and looking at some artists and thinking about commissioning some art for her book. And I just thought it was really exciting. I don't know that I would. At this stage, I don't think I will, because I am pursuing TradPub. However, again, if this book finds a home in the indie/self-publishing world, then I would definitely be a little bit more open to it. I've mentioned before that like I like to draw. I love art. I've been doing it for a very long time, but I don't think I could bring my characters to life the way that I would want them to look. So short answer for TradPub route that I'm going right now, probably not. But if things change and I do indie publishing, then yeah, I totally would. Cassandra Cass asks, what's your favorite trope? I think this is going to be so evident. If it's not evident by the story that I'm telling with Eden between Peter and Laurel, I love a childhood romance. I love best friends to lovers. I love just like very sweet, wholesome moments of romance. I think there's something like so underrated about them. I know everyone loves the drama of enemies to lovers and there's so much banter, but I actually think the banter between like childhood sweethearts and like friends to lovers is just so, there's something so naive about it and so sweet and tender that I love so much. Porva asks, how often do you write on the road / not at your laptop? Do you use Scrivener? I do use Scrivener. I mentioned, I think in the other Q&A portion, that I actually predominantly write on my laptop these days. Even if I sit at this desk, very rarely will I write like on my big monitor. There's something very daunting about having the project be so big and be bigger than me. So these days I've just been writing on my laptop, and I take that to the coffee shop. I take it to Barnes & Noble. I take it with me to work sometimes to write on the train. Paola Gomez asks, what do you use for writing and how do you organize? Again, I use Scrivener. I think when it comes to my Scrivener organization system, it's quite basic. I basically have like the draft that I'm working on. So right now I'm working on draft 2, and that's one folder, and then all of the chapters are listed in there. I have a folder for my archived draft 1, and then I also have like my world building. That's where I'll put like my characters. I'll put like a brain dump section, my beat sheet, my chapter by chapter outlines, like all of that stuff. I put it all in Scrivener. I'm trying to be much better about keeping all of my information in one place. Any ways to create an aesthetic to immerse more into the story when writing? I am a huge proponent of listening to music when I write, but music without lyrics. So for example, the scene that I was writing this morning, I was setting it up. It's the big like festival that they have every year. So it's also set during Halloween. So I'm like, okay, I want to listen to like very Halloweeny, spooky kind of like town ambiance noises. And that just helps me get way more immersed in the writing. Also, this one's a little weird, but I write a lot in the dark. Which is probably not good for my eyes. I think there's something about like the early morning where it's not like super bright out that kind of helps with that. When I first started writing, I would write really late at night because I liked how immersive it felt. But one thing I will also do is I will close my eyes, specifically when I'm stuck on a scene. I will close my eyes and put myself in the character's shoes basically and walk around the world as them. And it just kind of helps me get into the flow of what's supposed to be happening a little bit better. And then I just type with my eyes closed and I just let my fingers go. I don't worry about spelling, editing, anything. I'm just like trying really hard to get into the flow. Chloe McGrain asks, how did you and Edwin meet and how long have you been together? So Edwin and I met met actually because one of his really good friends was going to school where I was going to school in Florida. I had just gotten dumped so hard and I had just gone through like one of the worst breakups of my life. I befriended her really quickly. I was in her room one day and she was talking to someone on FaceTime and she's like, I gotta go take care of something, like talk to my friend. And it turned out to be Edwin. So for about 4 years, we were like texting, just like, I called us like pen pals. We would just like talk every once in a while, to the point like we were FaceTiming constantly. And I did have a crush on him, but I was like, there's no way in hell my parents are going to let me. Also, he didn't live anywhere near me. He was going to school in Arizona. So I was like, yeah, that's not happening at all. So I like didn't really think anything of it. And then some time passed. I got out of a different relationship. We reconnected and then we started dating. We did long distance for quite some time before I moved out to California, and then we've kind of been together ever since. We got married in 2021 and it's been lovely. I love my husband. I'm very grateful for the man that I have chosen to spend the rest of my life with, and he's just so sweet. I think we've been together so almost 10 years now already, which is crazy. And then lastly, Shauna Lori Author asks, what's a song that reminds you of Project Eden? Well, if you didn't know, I have my Project Eden playlist linked in the description of all of my videos because I love music. I think music is such an incredible way to supplement a story. So it's about a 5-hour playlist full of all of the songs that remind me of Project Eden. And I think I have different songs for different characters, but I think if I had to narrow it down to one song, it would be Francesca by Hosier. I feel like if you know, you know. Feel free to check out the Spotify playlist, and you're gonna have to let me know if there's any songs on there that resonate with you or that you love. I just feel like I love curating a playlist. It just does something to me. But yeah, that's everything I have for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed. It was a very long one, and I feel like I talked a lot. We talked a lot, but I feel like I was able to talk about Eden a little bit more this time around. I feel like this was a very, I think, realistic week in my life when it comes to, you know, work taking a little bit more priority than writing. I didn't do a really good job taking care of myself physically at all this week, but that's a lesson to be learned. But other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed. If there's any part of this video that really stood out to you, please feel free to leave it in the comment section down below. As always, feel free to drop your works in progress down below. I would love to cheer you on. I would love to hear more about what you're working on and what you're struggling with, or what your wins are. I think that's also lovely to highlight as well. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, make sure to leave a little book emoji. I'm rooting for you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!